Good day, sports fans. Thank you so much for joining us for this lecture 5 of the Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring course hosted by Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. My name is Abdullah Steenkamp and my usual batting partner for this evening will be Tom Mokarosi. Format of tonight's lecture will be as follows. I will cover laws 23, 24, 25, 26 and 27. I'll then hand over to Tom, who will then cover laws 28 up until 31. After that, we will open the floor for the Q&A session. So feel free to post any questions in the chat box while I'm presenting, and please keep the questions content relevant. And after Tom's gone through the questions in the chat box in our Q&A session, you will then open the floor for any other questions that you may have. You may then raise your virtual hand, and then when prompted, you can then ask your question. Kicking off for Law 23, and it explains to us what the difference between a bye and a leg bye is. So let's start with what is a bye? When can byes be scored? What conditions needs to be in place for byes to be scored? So firstly, first condition is the ball needs to pass the striker and should not have touched the bat or any part of the person. Should not have touched anything. That is the only condition for byes. It's irrelevant whether a shot is played or shot is not played. Only question that you need to ask yourself is, when the ball passed the striker, it did not touch the bat or the person. And then subsequently, let's say it goes past the keeper and the batter starts to run. This, according to the law, is seen as byes. So again, just to summarize, only condition for byes. Yes, the ball delivered should not be a wide, but ball should not have touched the bat or person. It's irrelevant whether a shot is played or not. And if it didn't touch the bat or person, and let's say it goes past the keeper and the batters run, those will be credited as byes. There is a column in the scorebook for byes. Those will be credited as byes in the scorebook. How do you signal byes? You'll turn to the scorer and you will raise your hand and you will wait for the scorers to acknowledge. If a no ball is bowled, that no ball will count in addition to the bye. So now I've covered byes. Let's have a look at leg byes. And let's look at what criteria and conditions are in place for leg byes to be awarded. So firstly, bowler ball that was delivered. So now the first criteria, it needs to strike any part of the person or the protective equipment of the striker. So you can see different to the byes. Under byes, it should not have touched anything. When it comes to leg byes, ball to strike any part of the person or the protective equipment. Yes, I know they call it leg byes. So you might think should only strike the leg, but no. A leg bias covers any part of the person. So yes, if it struck the shoulder, the tummy, the leg, any part of the person, leg bias can be scored. But there are conditions that needs to be met before those leg bias are scored. Let's have a look at what those conditions are. So first keep in mind, first criteria is it should ball that was delivered strikes any part of the person or protective equipment. Then let's look at conditions that needs to be met for leg bias to be scored. The striker needs to attempt to play at the ball. There needs to be a shot. That's the first condition for leg bias to be scored. And the second one is the striker if the striker try to avoid being hit by the ball, let's say a bouncer gets bowled and the striker ducks and it hit the striker's shoulder and ricochets, or hit the striker's helmet and ricochets to fine leg. If that condition is met, leg byes can be scored. So first criteria, needs to strike any part of the person or the protective equipment of the striker, and then the striker needs to play at the ball. There needs to be attempt by the striker to play at the ball with his or her bat, or striker try to avoid being hit by the ball. If these conditions are in place, leg byes can be scored. If the delivery was a no ball, that will count, and this will be added to the scorebook in addition to the leg byes. Okay, so now we know how leg byes to be scored and the conditions that needs to be in place for leg byes to be scored. The law also covers when leg byes are not to be scored, not to be awarded. So what needs to be in place for leg byes not to be awarded? We've just covered how leg byes can be scored. So when should leg byes not be scored? If you, the umpire, and in your opinion, you feel that the striker did not attempt to play at the ball with his or her bat. If no shot was offered, leg byes should not be scored. And if the striker did not try to avoid being hit by the ball, leg byes do not be awarded. So it's just the opposite of when leg byes can be scored. So how can leg byes be scored? If the striker attempted to play at the ball, if the striker tried to avoid being hit by the ball and it hit any part of his or her person. Now leg byes then can be scored. The flip side, how can leg byes not be scored, not be awarded? If the umpire in his or her opinion feels that the striker did not try to play a shot, did not attempt to play at the ball with his or her bat, or nor did the striker try to avoid being hit by the ball. If this happens, leg byes do not be awarded. And you'll often find at all levels of cricket, you see it in international cricket, you see it at provincial cricket, at club levels, at all levels. A lot of players, they don't know the law. They will not offer a shot. The ball will hit the pad. It will ricochet to, let's say, the fine leg boundary, and the batters will start to run. So in my example, because the batter did not offer a shot, the batter shouldered arms, it then hit the pad and ricochets to the fine leg boundary, and they started to run. So yes, you can see the leg byes, according to the law, in this example, should not be awarded. Why? Striker did not attempt to play at the ball. Striker shouldered arms. So, but as I said to you, at all levels, you'll see it. Batters will run. So, what do you then do if the batters do run? Then the law guides us. The law tells us. Yes, if the ball hits the pad, batter didn't offer a shot and it ricochets and they do decide to run, ball doesn't become dead. When does the ball become dead? You, the umpire, to only intervene if the ball that ricocheted off the pad with the striker not playing a shot and it goes over the boundary, then you intervene as the umpire by calling and signaling dead ball. Or when the two batters completed the first run, only then you intervene. Why do you only intervene then? You need to give the fielding side an opportunity to try to run out either of these batters. It's not the fielding side's a problem that they didn't know the law. So if it hits the pad and they do run, and they're not supposed to run because the batter shouldered arms, didn't play at the ball. So now they run. The law gives the fielding side an opportunity to run out either of those batters. But there's a window period for the fielding side to run out the batters. And that window period closes when the first run is completed, when the non-striker gets to behind the striker's end and the striker now gets to behind the popping crease at the non-striker's end. So only then do you as an umpire intervene. Let them complete that first run. Or let the ball, or as soon as the ball goes over the boundary, now you come in and call and signal dead ball. So now we know they took that single, they didn't offer a shot, it hit the pad, and those leg byes should not be awarded. So now what do you do as an umpire? You then need to do the following. That single that they took, in my example, where let's say they hit the pad, ricochet to fine leg, and they completed the run. I've just covered that you, the umpire, needs to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. And we now know leg byes that one run should not be awarded. So you need to disallow that run. What else should you do? Return any not out batter. You need to return the batters back to their ends. That run is not supposed to be awarded, will not count. Send the batters back to their ends. Strikers should come back to the strikers' end. Non-strikers should go back to the non-strikers' end. If there was a no ball, that no ball will be added to the scorebook. Award any 5 penalty runs as applicable, except if the ball should hit the protective helmet that was placed behind the keeper by the fielding side. Law 24 covers substitutes. When do we allow a substitute? When not? And it also covers fielder's absence. What happens if a fielder is not at the field when play starts or goes off the field to get some treatment? Let's start with substitutes. When do the umpire allow a substitute? We, the umpires, we shall always allow a substitute fielder if we feel that any fielder became injured or ill, and importantly, this injury or illness happened during this particular match. Players cannot come into the game with an injury. If they do get injured or ill in the game, the law allows us, the umpires, to allow a substitute fielder. That's the first instance. Second instance, when we allow a substitute fielder for a wholly acceptable reason. If it's a wholly acceptable reason, we will also allow a substitute fielders. We will not allow substitute fielders for comfort breaks, for bathroom breaks or toilet breaks. Unfortunately, the law does not allow players to go off if they do ask you for a comfort break. But for a wholly acceptable reason, no issue, we'll allow a substitute fielder. So what powers does the substitute fielder have? Substitute fielder has very limited power. Substitute fielder, that fielder cannot bowl. That fielder cannot bat. That fielder cannot be the captain of the side. Although the law gives a bit of leeway, the law allows that substitute fielder to be a wicket keeper. But before you allow the substitute to be the wicket keeper, umpires need to give consent that the substitute can now be the wicket keeper. So you can see very limited powers that a substitute fielder has. So next, when a fielder is absent or a fielder leaves the field of play, how do we as the umpires deal with this? Just about the history of this law. Many, many years ago, players used to abuse this law. They used to fake injuries just to go off, to put their feet up, to go rest, to go take a shower, to go have a smoke break, whatever. They would lie, they would fake an injury, they would tell the umpire, oh, my hamstring, can I go off for treatment? But meanwhile, they're faking it. They just want to go put their feet up or have a rest. Especially, let's say, bowlers used to abuse this the most, but not just bowlers, batters also. But opening bowler would bowl 5 overs, would then say, umpire, I need to have my back looked at, would then go off for an hour, come back and say, umpire, yeah, I'm back, and then would bowl immediately. Well rested for an hour in the dressing room. No, the lawmakers tightened this law. So what did they do? They then decided, okay, if a fielder fails to take the field at the start of the game, or if a fielder tells you, umpire, I need to leave the field to get treatment. Okay, you need to do the following as an umpire. That fielder that's going off needs to inform you, the umpire, why he or she is going off. You then, the umpire, there's a bit of practical tips as well. You'll take out your notebook. You'll then write in your notebook, let's say it's Cindy. Cindy going off to have, and Cindy needs to tell you why she's going off, to have a hamstring looked at. So you're right, Cindy off hamstring. And also importantly, you need to write down the time that Cindy goes off. Let's use a time of 10:30. Then what you need to do is, before Cindy comes back onto the field of play, so Cindy will now go off to get treatment to her hamstring. She'll now go off to the dressing room. There's a physio. Physio will then give some treatment. So importantly, before Cindy comes back after now receiving treatment from the physio, before Cindy's allowed to come back onto the field of play, Cindy needs the consent of the umpires before she can come back. So umpires needs to give her permission. So practically what will happen, after Cindy getting treatment, let's say 10:30 she left, 10:50 she's now back. She stands on the boundary waving to the umpires. Umpire, can I come back on? She needs your permission. And we'll see now why it's important that she needs your permission. Because as soon as she comes back on, after you gave consent, you gave permission, you need to write down the time that Cindy came back. And we'll see in point 3 why that time is important. And we'll see later on why it's important that Cindy gets your consent or gets your permission, because it's important that you do need to know how long Cindy was off, and we'll see it in point 3 in this slide. And there's quite a harsh punishment if any player comes back onto the field after getting treatment and don't inform the umpires. And you'll be amazed how often this happens. You can tell a player before that player goes off, a player before coming back, please tell me when you're back. You can tell that player. Many of them, they either forget or they'll come back without informing you. But we'll see later on in this law, there's quite a harsh punishment if a player comes back to the field of play after getting treatment and don't inform you. But we'll get to it later in this law. So point 2, write down after you've given permission what time Cindy came back. So why is that important? This is where the lawmakers tighten this law. So they said, okay, player, we'll allow you to go off to get treatment, but after getting treatment and you're back on, you now need to be on the field of play for the same amount of time that you were off the field before you were allowed to bowl, up to a max of 90 minutes. I'll give you an example to illustrate this. I'll use Cindy as our fielder. So Cindy comes to you, umpire, I injured my hammy. Can I go off to get treatment? No problem, Cindy. You take out your notebook, write down Cindy off for hamstring, and you need to write down the time, 10:30. You tell Cindy, before you come back, please let me know. I need to give you permission before you come back. So at 10:50, Cindy stands on the boundary, waving to the umpires. Umpire, I'm ready to come back on. Umpires then gives consent. Okay, Cindy, you can come back on. You then take out your notebook again and you write down Cindy back at 10:50. So why is this important? When Cindy left and when Cindy came back. So Cindy left at 10:30, Cindy back at 10:50. So now you will tell Cindy and her captain, before Cindy's allowed to bowl, she needs to wait 20 minutes before she's allowed to bowl. How did I get 20 minutes? She was off at 10, she left at 10:30, she came back at 10:50. So that's 20 minutes she was off. So now the law wants Cindy to field first, so be on the field for 20 minutes before she can bowl. So seeing that she returned at 10:50, Cindy can only bowl 20 minutes later, which is at 11:10. So that's how the law works. So you can go off to get treatment, but you need to field for that amount of time that you were off, known as penalty time, before you are allowed to bowl again. There is a max of 90 minutes of penalty time. So how does this max work? Let's say Cindy injured her hammy at 10:30 and she only returns to the field at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yes, it's been lengthy, treatment that he received, and yes, he was off for, let's say, 3-4 hours. Does he need to wait 3-4 hours before he can bowl again? No, the laws say it's a maximum penalty time. You don't need to wait 3-4 hours. Cindy can bowl 90 minutes later as soon as he returns. Max penalty time is 90 minutes. So in our example, Cindy returning at 4 o'clock. So you will tell Cindy and her captain, Cindy needs to wait 90 minutes before she can bowl. So Cindy can bowl at 17:30 again. When it comes to penalty time doesn't disappear. It gets carried forward. While this game is in progress, you'll it gets carried forward into the next day, into the next innings. Yes, you won't carry it into the next match, but as soon as while this game is still in progress, penalty time will be carried forward. Penalty time don't disappear. Sometimes you'll find players going on and off a few times. They'll get treatment for their hammy, go off, come back, be on the field a few minutes, go off again, come back again. All those times that a player goes on and off, and the player that the time that the player was not on the field of play, that is seen as penalty time. That player first needs to serve that penalty time before he or she is allowed to bowl again. Scheduled intervals like your change of innings interval, your drinks interval, your tea interval, your lunch interval, scheduled intervals. These are seen by the law, and they will not be added to any penalty time that a player might owe, nor will they be subtracted from any penalty time that a player might owe. Just a quick example. Let's say lunch is at 12 o'clock and Cindy left the field at 11:30. So left at 11:30, we took lunch at 12 o'clock. Lunch is 40 minutes at and 12:40 play will return. Play will resume. So Cindy, seeing that she left at 11:30, lunch at 12. At 12:40, when play resumes, Cindy's on the field. Captain asks you, how much time does Cindy owe us? You will tell the captain, Cindy owes us 40 minutes. She can bowl at 13:20 again. How did I get 40 minutes? 30 minutes. She can bowl at 10 past 1 again. How did I get 30 minutes? She left at 11:30. We took lunch at 12 o'clock. So that was 30 minutes while play was in progress that Cindy was not there. So that is penalty time. The time from 12 o'clock till 12:40, that was an interval. No one was on the field of play. And now it comes to the definition of penalty time. It is time while player was not on the field while play was in progress. So lunchtime, no one was on the field. So you cannot now add 40 minutes to Cindy's 30 minutes and say, yeah, but Cindy now owes us 70 minutes. No, you cannot be adding the lunchtime. So that's all that point 5 is telling us. Scheduled intervals, you won't add it, you won't subtract it. When it comes to an unscheduled break, I'll give you 3 examples of unscheduled break. Rain interruption, bad light, players going off for lightning. So as soon as players leave the field for lightning, for rain, for um, uh, for bad light, those are seen in the law as unscheduled breaks. So now the law treats unscheduled breaks differently to scheduled breaks. So the law tells us when it comes to unscheduled break, and I'll use our rain break as an example. You can use this unscheduled break, this rain interruption, and subtract it from any penalty time that a player might owe us. There are conditions. If a player was on the field when it started to rain, that's point 1. And if a player was not on the field when it started to rain, I'm not going to go into too much detail. For those of you that's going to do level 2 and 3, here we go into detail when it comes to unscheduled break and exactly how to handle it. I'm just giving you an idea in this level 1 course. When it comes to scheduled breaks, you won't add it or subtract it. But when it comes to unscheduled break, Here you can subtract it if it meets the conditions in 1 and 2. I mentioned earlier about penalty time not disappearing. You will carry it into the next day. You will carry it into the next innings. Don't disappear. The law also recognizes that there are times where no penalty time to be incurred. A player does not have to serve any penalty time. I mentioned earlier the reason was why this law was tightened up, because players was abusing this law, fake injuries. So when it comes to a hammy, if a player comes to you and say, umpire, I need to go off to have my hamstring looked at. I mean, how do you see if the hamstring is injured or not? I mean, it's not possible for you to see. So if that is the case, player goes off, player needs to serve penalty time. But there are instances where no penalty time needs to be served. And what are examples of those instances? There's two of them. If a player suffered an external blow during the game and it happened on the field of play, suffered external blow during the match. So, what is this external blow? I'll give you two examples. Let's say the ball gets delivered. There's a short leg fielder under the helmet. Let's say it's a spinner bowling. Spinner bowls a short ball, and the short leg, the striker pulls the short ball, and it goes against the knee of the short leg fielder. So this is an example of an external blow. It's a blow that happened. Ball went against the knee of the short leg fielder. So now, obviously, painful if that hard cricket ball goes against your knee. And let's say the player tells you, umpire, I need to go off to put some ice on this on my knee. So now that player goes off, and let's say the player left at 11 o'clock and came back at 11:30. Now the player was off for 30 minutes. And I've just covered, if as soon as a player goes off, that player needs to serve penalty time, needs to wait before they can bowl. But in this example, and this is the exemption that the law makes, if an external blow happens, like in my example, ball went against the knee, external blow, ball against knee, if this happens and a player leaves, and in my example, left for 30 minutes, that player does not have to serve any penalty time. Because we saw it happen. It happened on the field. We as umpires saw the ball goes against the knee. Player didn't try to, cheat, try to fake. We saw it. So because of this external blow, no penalty time to be served. That's one example. Another example doesn't always have to be ball against a knee. You can have an example where the ball gets hit high up in the air, two fielders conversing on it, and they run into each other trying to catch the ball. So let's say the elbow of the one fielder goes against the face, or let's say against the ribs of the one fielder, and they both go down. Another example of an external blow, two fielders running into each other. And if one of those fielders or both needs to go off to get treatment, and they come back an hour later, no penalty time will be served because of the external blow that happened. And secondly, if you, the umpires, feel that a player was not on the field, was absent for a wholly acceptable reason, and it wasn't for illness or injury, you will also no penalty time to be incurred. I'll just give you an example of a wholly acceptable reason. In South Africa, in our provincial competition, we have many students playing in our provincial competitions, and they study at a tertiary institution. So during exam times in end of November, beginning December, many of them write exams, and sometimes the exams will be on a Saturday, and our competitions usually the 4 days usually go from Thursday to Sunday. So Saturday, let's say a student, let's say Cindy's writing from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock. So Cindy writing an exam at an institution, she obviously won't be at the field that Saturday morning. So this is an example of a wholly acceptable reason why Cindy is not at the field. So let's say Cindy gets only to the field at 1 o'clock and she now joins her teammates at 1 o'clock. Cindy can bowl immediately, even though Cindy was not on the field for the morning session, and let's say the morning session was 2 hours. Cindy can bowl immediately because it was a wholly acceptable reason why Cindy was not on the field. I mentioned earlier the importance of a player before returning to the field to let you know when they're coming back, because you need to write down the time, and you'll see now the harsh punishment if a player comes onto the field without informing you, and as soon as that player touches that ball, remember this player went off for injury, came back, but didn't inform you, slip back. And it can happen. Sometimes they'll do a change at third man. I mean, umpires, our eyes are on, in the middle. We sometimes cannot see if a switch happen at third man or fine leg. And it happens. Players do it. So if there is a swap of players at third man and that player didn't inform you, while the ball is still in play and that player touches the ball immediately becomes dead. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. More punishment. Runs completed by the batters to be scored. And if they cross at the instant when the fielder touched the ball, that run also to count. More punishment. That ball not to count as one for the over. And you'll inform everyone of what has happened, and you need to report this to the governing body as per the law. So you can see quite harsh punishment. So it's important. Fielders coming back from injury after getting treatment needs to inform you. Law 25 covers the batters, innings, and the runners. And the runners. Let me start with runners. The law still allow for runners, but in most competitions these days, in the playing conditions, they do not allow for runners anymore. But those are playing conditions. But in the law still allows for runners. So when does a batter's inning start? For the two openers, it starts as soon as the umpire calls play. Or if a wicket fell just before lunch and the new batters only to come back to bat after lunch, as soon as the umpire calls play after lunch, then the innings of that new batter will start. Or let's say the third or the fourth wicket fell and the number 5 batter is now going to come in. So the innings of that number 5 batter will start as soon as that batter steps onto the field of play. So when does a batter step onto the field of play? When UC puts their foot across the boundary rope. That's when, according to the law, the inning starts. Lots of players think the inning starts when the player takes guard. No, that's not when the inning starts. It starts when the player first steps onto the field of play. Earlier I mentioned if players goes off to get treatment and they come back, let's say a bowler needs to wait needs to wait for the penalty, or needs to serve the penalty time that they were off before they're allowed to bowl. Similarly, batters also used to abuse this law, especially if, let's say, a side is 9 down. Opening bat would fake an injury and say, umpire, oh, my hamstring, can I quickly go off to get treatment? Meanwhile, knowing the fielding side is 9, or the batting side is 9 down, one more wicket, then they're going to go bat. Batter wants to go put his or her feet up to take a rest. So batters also, if they go off, they also need to serve that penalty time before they're allowed to bat. But there is a but, and that but is, even if a player owes penalty time, if a side is 5 wickets down, that player can bat immediately. I'll give you an example. Let's say use John. John at 3 o'clock tells the umpire, I need to leave the field. I need to have my hamstring checked. That. And keep in mind, John is the opening bat of side B. So side A is busy batting. Side A is currently 9 wickets down. But John leaves at 3 o'clock. So the 10th wicket partnership, took a while. and the 10th wicket only fell at 4 o'clock. So John was off for 60 minutes. So now, remember, John is the opening bat. So now there'll be a change of innings. So there'll be a 10-minute change of innings. John will come bat, the side B will come bat at 10 past 4. So can John open the batting? No, he cannot. Why? He was off for 60 minutes. So he needs to wait 60 minutes before he's allowed to bat. So seeing that the inning started at 10 past 4, you will tell John and his captain that he's only allowed to bat at 10 past 5. He needs to wait 60 minutes. But there is a but, and this is where this 5 wickets, if a side lost 5 wickets, comes in. So the law allows for, if a side is 5 down, let's say side B is now batting, we know John owes 60 minutes. Inning started at 10 past 4. John can only come bat at 10 past 5. In the first over, the opening bat took a hat-trick. The side B is 3 runs for 3 wickets opening over. In the second over, the other opening bowler takes 2 wickets. The side B is 10 for the loss of 5 wickets. So now, because side is 5 down, and let's say we're only now at 16:30. Remember, the inning started at 16:10. At 16:30, side B is 5 down. So now the law allows for John to come bat. But the side must be 5 down before the law allows for John to come bat. Even though John still owes us time, penalty time, because John technically can only bat at 17:10. So he's still at 16:30, he still owes 40 minutes. But because his side is 5 down, John can come back immediately. If there is an unscheduled stoppage, like rain, the law also allows for a rain interruption. If a batter still owes penalty time, for that rain interruption to be subtracted from any penalty time that a batter owes, as long as that batter personally come and inform you, the umpires, that EOC is fit, and that's as soon as the EOC informs you, that is when time will start, or time will be allowed. From that moment, time will be allowed for the batter to subtract the rain interruption from any penalty time that the EOC may owes. Batter retiring. And again, I'm handling how the law, or how the current law, what the current law allows, when a batter can retire, when a batter cannot retire. I know there are playing conditions that are slightly different for most competitions across the world, but for the purposes of this course and the exam, we're covering the laws of cricket. And according to the laws of cricket, a batter can retire at any time. As soon as the ball is dead, the batter, needs to inform the umpire why you retiring. Then the law tells us, if the batter do retire because of injury or illness or an unavoidable cause, the batter got hit against the finger by a short ball, that's because of an injury, the batter goes off, no issue, umpires to allow it. If that batter don't come back to bat later on, that batter will be retired as not out. If a batter do retire for any other reason except injury or illness or an unavoidable cause, that batter is only allowed to come back bat later on with the permission of the opposing captain. And if that batter don't come back later on, that batter will be retired out in the scorebook. Again, this is how the law handles batters retiring. I do know playing conditions are slightly different at the moment for most competitions across the world. The striker has a right to play at the ball without any interference from the keeper or any other fielder. There is a but. We will get to it on Wednesday when we get to one of the modes of dismissals obstructing the field. But that's for Wednesday. But for now, at all times, the striker has a right to play at the ball. Striker has the right to protect his or her wicket without any interference from the keeper or the fielder. Importantly, the law wants the striker to stay on the pitch at all time while playing at the ball. There needs to be some part of the striker's bat or person and it can be grounded or raised. Part of the bat or person needs to remain within the pitch. Those days of a striker going off the pitch to play at the ball is gone. This law was changed in 2022, where a striker is now not allowed to go off the pitch anymore to play at the ball. If the striker do go off the pitch to play at the ball, you, the umpire, needs to intervene. How do you intervene? You need to call and signal dead ball. Striker needs to stay on the pitch to play at the ball. As soon as the striker goes off, please intervene and call and signal dead ball. Penultimate law that I'm covering, practice on the field. Let's have a look at, are you allowed to practice? Where can you practice? Where can you not practice? And if you do contravene any practice or practice where you're not allowed to, are there punishments? And if yes, what are the punishments? So let's have a look. When it comes to the pitch and the square, are you allowed to practice on the pitch or the square? No, you're not allowed at all to practice on the pitch at any time on any day of the match. In our 5-day test match, you're not allowed to practice on the pitch on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not at all. Are you allowed to practice on the rest of the square? No, you're not. But there is a but. If the umpires do approve that you can practice on the square, you're then allowed to practice on the square. You'll find in international and provincial cricket where the squares are fairly big. At the Newlands Cricket Stadium in Cape Town, South Africa, there's about 17 or 18 pitches on the square. It's a huge square. So what happens in provincial and international cricket? For players to warm up, bowlers to warm up, you'll see where these red lines are drawn on the side. They are, like we call it, bowling strips. So they are playing conditions that allow these bowlers to warm up on these bowling strips. But they usually right at the end pitches of the square. So yes, the law allows for, the law does not allow practice to take place on the square, except with the approval of the umpires. But you'll see in international and provincial cricket where there are big squares, we'll allow bowlers to warm up on the end strips of these squares. Are we allowed to practice on the outfield? Definitely. Before the start of play, we're allowed to practice. After the close of play, we're allowed to practice. During lunch and tea interval or between innings, the law allows for practice on the outfield to take place. There is a but. If umpires feel that the outfield is in not a good condition, and if you do allow practice to take place, it might deteriorate the condition of the outfield. If that is what you feel, the umpires, have the power to tell the field, the teams, unfortunately, because of the condition of the outfield, we will not allow practice on the outfield. But in general, before the start of play, after the close of play, and during lunch or tea interval, you are allowed to practice on the field. So that's before the start of play. After the start of before the start of play. Sorry, I'm just lost my slide here. So before the start of play, after the close, during lunch or tea, you're allowed to practice. Are you allowed to practice while play is in progress? So between the call of play and time, are you allowed to practice? Yes, you are. There are few conditions that needs to be met. Only fielders that's on the field, the 11 fielders, they are allowed to practice on the field while play is in progress. No other ball than the match ball to be used for practice. Cannot be you bringing a ball into from the outside to practice on the field. No bowling practice to take place in the area between the square and the boundary in the direction parallel to the match pitch. Umpires needs to make sure that fielders are not trying to change the condition of the match ball or try to waste time. So yes, during the while play is in progress, you are allowed, but you can see these are the conditions that needs to be met. Do we allow bowlers trial run-ups? Yes, the law allows for it. But we need to make sure that the bowlers are not trying to waste time, nor they're trying to damage the pitch. So what are the penalties if a player do practice where they're not allowed to? Like, let's say we covered in the first slide, you're not allowed to practice on the match pitch. Let's say a bowler do bowl a ball on the match pitch. What now needs to happen? The punishment is as follows. You need to call the bowler and say, bowler, this is not allowed. You're not allowed to bowl on this pitch. You call the fielding captain as well. Say, captain, bowler's not allowed to bowl on this match pitch. So you'll give the bowler first and final warning. Batters will also get first and final warning if it happens the first time. And this warning to apply throughout the match. So if it happens the first time, we'll give the team a warning. Then if it happens again, 5 penalty runs to the opposing side. You need to inform everyone and report this to the governing body. Last law that I'm covering before handing over to Tom is the wicket keeper. Let's see, when it comes to the equipment, what is the keeper allowed to wear and not to wear? The keeper is the only fielder that is allowed to wear the following: gloves and external leg guards. Keeper's allowed to put the pads outside the trousers, and keeper's the only fielder that's allowed to wear gloves. Any other fielder, when it comes to leg guards or pads, yes, they are allowed to wear them, but they need to put it inside their trousers. So short leg fielder, if they do want to put it on some pads, it's not allowed to be on the outside. That fielder needs to put it on the inside. But external leg guards and gloves, keeper's the only person to wear it, and keeper can then use it to field the ball with the pads or the gloves. Also, the law tells us that if you do see the keeper is in a certain position, and according to you, that is not a normal position for this keeper, that keeper will forfeit the rights that the keeper has in terms of fielding the ball with the gloves or those external leg guards, or stump or take a fair catch with those gloves on. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's a medium pacer bowling, a slow medium pacer, and the keeper standing on the boundary, which is like, let's say, 80 meters away. Is that a normal position for keeper for medium pace bowler? No, definitely not. So that keeper in the law is not seen as a keeper now. So we cannot stop a fielder from standing there, but that keeper is not allowed. Is not seen as a keeper, and that fielder is not allowed to wear gloves or external leg guards. And if the keeper insists on wearing them and standing on the boundary, and that keeper touches the ball with those gloves, it will be illegal fielding. And Tom will cover that in Law 28, and we'll see the punishment for illegal fielding. Just to go over, the gloves, no webbing between the fingers. That piece of material that's between the fingers should be not non-stretch material. Yeah, you can look at the pic. That is what the law allows when it comes to the keeper's gloves. And we can go into the law book under Appendix E at the back of the book to have a look at it and go into more detail. When it comes to the position of the keeper, where's the keeper allowed to stand and not to stand? The law wants the keeper to stay behind the wicket at all times from the moment the ball comes into play. Until, and there are 3 exceptions, and we'll get there now. But for starters, keeper needs to stay behind the wicket at all times as soon as that bowler takes his or her first step. Law wants the keeper to stay behind the stumps. Wholly behind the wicket is the technical term that the law uses. There are 3 exceptions where the keeper can come in front of the stumps. Except for these 3 exceptions, the keeper needs to stay behind the stumps at all times. What are these 3 exceptions? As soon as the ball touches the bat or person of the striker, keeper can come in front of the stumps. As soon as the ball passes the striker's wicket, keeper can come in front of the stumps. As soon as the striker attempts a run, keeper can come in front of the stumps. So these are the only 3 instances where the keeper can come in front of the stumps. Otherwise, keeper needs to stay behind the stumps. So what happens if a keeper do come in front of the stumps and it's not one of these 3 bullet points? You, the strikers and umpire, needs to intervene by calling and signaling no ball. Keeper needs to stay behind the stumps at all time, except for these 3 bullet points. Let's look at the video. The video will just emphasize, the law that I've just covered, and you can, visually see what the law is trying to say. Let's look at the video.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. First, let's watch a footage from the T20 match between India and Australia, which happened on 21st of November 2018. Australian wicket-keeper Alex Carey ends up touching the stumps before the ball reaches him, and after referring to the third umpire, it was declared a no ball. So what do you guys think about it? It's a no ball because he touched the stumps? Well, let's find out. Before going any further, let us take a look at the restrictions a wicket-keeper has. He has restrictions both on his movement and position. According to cricket law, after the ball comes into play, to know when the ball comes into play, watch the above video. And before the ball reaches the striker, it is unfair if the wicket-keeper makes any significant movement. In this case, umpire will call it dead ball and further action will be invalid. However, he is allowed to make certain movements. Let's take a look at them. He is allowed to move a few steps forward for a slower delivery, but doing so should not bring the stumps in his reach. He is allowed to move laterally, like this wicket-keeper, in response to the direction in which the ball has been delivered. He is allowed to move in response to the stroke that the striker is playing, like this wicket-keeper does, but he has to make sure that he follows the law 27.3.1. Let's see what exactly that law is. The wicket-keeper shall remain wholly behind the wicket. He can't even be parallel to the stumps from the moment the ball comes into play till either of the following things happens. Ball touches the bat or body of the striker. So he can come ahead of the stumps right after the ball touches the bat or batsman's body, just like this keeper does. Next case, he can come ahead after the ball passes the stumps, and he can come ahead if the striker starts running without playing the shot. It will be called a no ball in case of keeper violating this law. In the case of Alex Carey, ball had touched the bat when he broke the wicket. Hence, this is not a violation of law. But he was parallel to the stumps before the ball made contact with the bat. Hence, it was called a no ball. Another instance which needs a mention here is Andy Flower's incident. He is clearly ahead of the stumps even before the ball reached the batsman. It should have been called a no ball, but the umpire didn't notice it at all, and unfortunately it costed Ridley Jacobs his wicket. Still have any doubts with this? Do let me know in the comment section.
So just to summarize what the video just said about the movement of the wicket keeper. So after the ball comes into play and before reaching the striker, the keeper is not allowed to significantly change his or her position. The law sees this as unfair, except in the following instances. The keeper is allowed to move a few paces forward for slower delivery, but if by moving a few paces forward and it brings the keeper within the reach of the stumps, that is not allowed. You need to intervene. That is seen as unfair. We'll see later in the slide what the punishment is for unfair movement. Keepers allowed lateral movement in response to the direction that the ball is going. And lastly, keeper is allowed to move in response to a stroke that the striker is playing. And we'll see this in the next slide, what is meant by it. So what is the punishment if there is unfair movement by the keeper? Either umpire need to immediately call and signal dead ball. There's further punishment. If there was a wide or no ball, that to count 5 penalty runs to the batting side for the unfair movement by the keeper. You'll inform the fielding captain of why you've given this punishment, inform the others, and report this to the governing body. And lastly, and here's an example of Temba Bavuma playing a lap sweep. So as soon as Temba indicated that he's going to play the lap sweep, the keeper is allowed to move. So here you can see the Bangladeshi keeper far down the leg side, but this is no issue with this. This is not unfair movement because he only started to move when Timba saved to play the lap sweep. And lastly, before handing over to Tom, so if in playing at the ball or in legitimate defense of the striker's wicket, the striker interferes with the keeper, the striker shall not be out. Striker is allowed to protect his or her wicket. There is a but, and we'll get to that on Wednesday, where the striker is not allowed to obstruct a ball from being catched or caught, but we'll get to that on Wednesday. Tom, thank you so much. That's all I'm covering. Over to you.
So law 28 is the fielder. And the first quiz question of today will be answered immediately by this video. The question is pretty simple. Is a normal fielder allowed to use wicket keeper equipment? So please type in your answer before I show you the video, because the video gives us the answer to this question. This question is pretty straightforward. Is a normal fielder allowed to use wicketkeeper equipment? The wicketkeeper equipment, as Abdullah has told us, is the external leg guards. It is the gloves. Is a normal fielder allowed to use wicketkeeper equipment? Please type into the chat box 28 yes or 28 no. Let's watch the video for the answer to this quiz question.
Babar Azam wearing a glove and actually caught the ball, and then that was deemed illegal fielding. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, right, the first delivery, there's 5 penalty runs, and that's because of illegal fielding, because Babar Azam picked up Rizwan's glove and used it to catch the ball,
Quite well explained by the commentator there. I will play you the video while talking you through it. You will see that as the shot is played, Babar Azam runs from first slip Rizwan runs after the ball. He drops his glove so that he can throw with the hand not wearing a glove. And Babar Azam jokingly picks the glove up, and as the throw comes in, it goes straight to Babar Azam, and Babar Azam catches the ball with Rizwan's glove. The on-field umpire, Hassan Raza, correctly signaled 5 penalty runs awarded to the batting side because of that illegal fielding by Babar Azam. As I'm sure you all know, Babar Azam was the captain of Pakistan for many years. So this shows us that even international captains don't know some laws. We need to know our laws so that we can apply them correctly in a pressure scenario. So no, a normal fielder is not allowed to use wicketkeeper equipment. What happens if he or she does? It is deemed illegal fielding, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. The run that the West Indies completed before the ball made contact with the glove, even if they hadn't completed it, as long as they had crossed before the instant of the illegal fielding, that run also counts. And the ball needs to be rebowled. It shall not count as a legal delivery in the over. Matter needs to be reported after the game, and during the game, everybody needs to be informed as to why 5 penalty runs were awarded to the batting side. So quite a harsh penalty for illegal fielding. What was supposed to be a joke and an act of fooling around by Baba Azam cost his side 5 penalty runs, and he might have been reported for that incident as well. So let's look at what a fielder is allowed and what a fielder is not allowed to do. Law tells us that a fielder may field the ball with any part of his or her person. However, he or she will be deemed to have fielded the ball illegally if, while the ball is in play, he or she willfully uses anything other than part of his or her person to field the ball. For example, the gloves of the wicketkeeper or even the external leg guards of the wicketkeeper. Yes, fielders are allowed external leg guards if they're fielding at a position close to the striker, but they cannot use the leg guards of the wicketkeeper. And you will know as well that if they do use leg guards, they are supposed to be tucked into the pants so that they are not external, they are internal leg guards. Usually fielders will use shin guards similar to what soccer players use, or really small wicketkeeper pads that they tuck underneath their pants. A fielder also cannot extend his or her clothing and use the extended piece of clothing to field the ball. We will see a picture of a fielder using a cap that is not on his head. That is illegal fielding. A fielder cannot discard a piece of clothing, equipment, or any other object which subsequently makes contact with the ball. Quite importantly, we need to note that it is not illegal fielding if the ball in play makes contact with a piece of clothing, equipment, or any other object which has accidentally fallen from the fielder's person. So I'll give you an example to illustrate what the law is telling us here. If a fielder is running after the ball and the ball is running away from him or her, so he or she increases the speed at which they're running, and because of the wind blowing against the player's face, the cap flies off the head of the fielder. The fielder hasn't taken off the cap purposefully or intentionally. The wind has blown off the cap accidentally from the head of the fielder. The fielder continues to run, gets to the ball, slides, picks the ball up, throws the ball in, and the ball on its way towards the wicket keeper bounces on the cap that flew off the head of that fielder. Was that intentionally discarded? No, that cap flew off the head of the fielder because the fielder was running so fast. So is that illegal fielding? No, it is not illegal fielding because the cap flew off accidentally from the head of the fielder. This is definitely illegal fielding. Why? Because you can see that this fielder has willfully taken off his cap and is extending his or her person to use the cap to field the ball. This is illegal fielding because this is extending clothing or equipment to field the ball. So what happens if the ball is fielded illegally? Quite importantly, the ball shall immediately become dead. Good umpiring practice would be to call and signal dead ball because not many players are aware of this law, as we saw with Babar Azam. But we don't have to call and signal dead ball. Why? Because the ball immediately becomes dead. If there was a no ball or a wide, they will stand. And of course, the 1-run penalty for a no ball or wide will stand. Any runs completed by the batters shall be credited to the batters, together with the run in progress if the batters had crossed at the instant of the illegal fielding. The ball shall not count as a legal delivery in the over and needs to be rebowled. The umpire shall award 5 penalty runs to the batting side, as we saw earlier. We will inform everybody and we will report the incident. Now let's look at protective helmets belonging to the fielding side. Where are we allowed to place them if they are not worn by a fielder? Law tells us that protective helmets, when not in use by fielders, should be placed on the ground behind the wicketkeeper and in line with both sets of stumps. That is the position on the field that the ball is most likely not to go or least likely to go. We do not want the ball hitting that helmet behind the wicketkeeper. But it does happen. So when it happens that a protective helmet belonging to the fielding side is on the ground and the ball while in play strikes it, what procedure do we follow? Firstly, the ball shall automatically become dead. Once again, it is good umpiring practice in this scenario as well to call and signal dead ball. Most players do know this law, but on the field of play, if the ball hits the helmet behind the wicketkeeper placed on the ground, not all the fielders will see the ball hitting the helmet. So whichever umpire sees the ball hitting the helmet behind the wicketkeeper placed on the ground, that umpire shall call and signal dead ball to make everybody aware that the ball has hit the helmet. Once again, we will award 5 penalty runs to the batting side, and this is usually indicated by the bowler's end umpire. Any runs completed by the batters before the ball hit the protective helmet shall be scored, together with the run in progress if the batters had crossed at the instant that the ball hit the helmet. So unlucky for the fielding side, but because they placed it there, 5 penalty runs will be awarded to the batting side if the ball hits the helmet placed behind the wicketkeeper on the ground. Let's look at movement by fielders, what is allowed and what is not allowed. Law tells us that any movement by any fielder, excluding the wicketkeeper, after the ball comes into play and before the ball reaches the striker, is unfair, except a few scenarios. What is allowed by law? Minor adjustments to stance or position in relation to the striker's wicket. You will often find when a bowler starts running in, the catching fielders, like your slip fielders, your short cover or your short leg, they will crouch into a catching position to be ready for a potential catch. That is considered a minor adjustment to their stance and is allowed by law. What is also allowed by law is movement by any fielder other than a close catching fielder towards the striker or towards the striker's wicket that does not significantly alter the position of that fielder. When we all started learning to play cricket as youngsters, one of the common laws or rules that our coaches would teach us is to walk in with the bowler. As a fielder, to be ready, to be alert, we are allowed as per law to walk in with the field, with the bowler. That is what point number 2 is referring to in this slide. What else is allowed? movement by any fielder in response to the stroke that the striker is playing or that his actions suggest that he intends to play. We saw in a previous slide that Abdullah presented earlier when Temba Bavuma was shaping to play the lap sweep. The wicket keeper moved down leg, anticipating a catch, and he did take a great catch. The first slip fielder was also running towards the leg side when Temba Bavuma made contact with that ball. That is allowed. Why? Because it was behind Temba Bavuma, so it did not distract the striker, and it was in response to the stroke that Temba Bavuma was playing. So those three movements by fielders are allowed as per law. So any other movement by a fielder before the striker has had a chance to play at the delivery is considered unfair. And what happens if a fielder has unfair movement? Either umpire shall call and signal dead ball. Whichever umpire saw the unfair movement first, they will call and signal dead ball, and they will inform the other umpire of why they've called and signaled dead ball. Then the bowlers and umpire shall, if there was a wide or a no ball, that 1 run penalty for the wide or no ball will always stand. The bowlers and umpire will award 5 penalty runs to the batting side for illegal movement by the fielder. We will inform everybody, and after the day's play, we will report the matter to the governing body in charge of that match. That is law 28, the fielder done. Now we move on to law 29, the wicket is broken. Let's watch an animation video to talk us through this law.
The wicket is down. The wicket is put down when one or both bails are removed from the top of the stumps, or a stump is struck out of the ground. The situation can be brought about in the following ways: by the ball, by the batsman's bat, by the batsman's bat if he or she lets go of it, or even by some flying part of a bat if it breaks, by the batsman's clothing or body, or some part of his or her equipment falling off, by a fielder with his or her hand or arm, providing the same hand is holding the ball. If the bail merely bounces and comes to rest back on the stumps, then that is not out. The wicket is down at the precise moment that both ends of either bail are removed from the stumps. Right about now. Should you have further questions on this tricky subject, such as how to put the wicket down when one or both bails have already been removed, head over to Law 29 in MCC's The Laws of Cricket. The wicket.
So we have just gone through a laws of cricket animation video. Just for all of you to know, you can download an app, whether it is on your Apple device or a Android device. The Laws of Cricket app looks like the blue law book, and when you open it, you will see there are the laws of cricket at the top, and then animation videos in the middle, and a quiz at the bottom. All the animation videos that we will play throughout the rest of this law course are available on the app, and there are even more animation videos than what we actually use in our laws Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring course. So do yourself a favor, the link to download the app, whether it's on your Apple device or an Android device, they are on the course material and logistics email that I sent along with the lecture reminders and lecture recording emails right at the bottom. Okay, so now that we've learned a little bit about the law, we come to two quiz questions based on the wicket is down. There are two quiz questions on law 29. So the first one is 29.1 and the second one will be 29.2. So please, when you type in your answer to the scenario, just be careful to type in 29.1 and then your answer, and then 29.2 and your answer for 29.2. So this one is 29.1. Let's watch the video. Pretty self-explanatory. Question is the wicket down in this scenario?
Full bowl. Good appeal from deep cover from Tricky. Well, amazing. The bail is dislodged onto the top of the stumps. Umpire.
So that is our first question. Is the wicket down in this scenario? I'll play it again without the commentary.
Full bowl. Good appeal from deep cover.
Bowlers bowled the ball. The batter missed it or got a slight edge, and the ball went and hit the off stump. The off bail has landed up on top of the off stump. Is that out or not out? Please, is this wicket down in this scenario? Yes or no? Or you can simply answer out or not out. Question 29.1. Moving swiftly along to the second quiz question for law 29. It's 29.2. Is the wicket down in this scenario? Yes or no? Please type into the chat box now, 29.2 yes or 29.2 no. Is the wicket down in this scenario? I will go through all the answers of all the quiz questions after I have presented laws 29, 28 through to 31. Right. The quiz or the animation video also at the end said to us, we need to know, how do we put a wicket down fairly if earlier in the same delivery the bails fell off? The bails could have fallen off because of the wind blowing them off, or there was a run-out attempt that hit the stumps, the bails fell off, but the striker was in or the batter was in, then the ball ricocheted towards the boundary, so the batters carried on running. Now another throw comes in. How will the bowler or the fielder at the stumps put the wicket down for a second time? It is depicted in the picture on the slide. You as a fielder need to put the ball and the stump together and then uproot that stump with the ball in contact with the stump. Okay, that is one way that you can put a wicket down for the second time after the wicket was fairly put down earlier in that same delivery. Would this be a fair way of putting the wicket down? No, it's not. you'll see here that in this scenario, this bowler or this fielder has uprooted the stump without the ball making contact with the stump. The ball has to be in contact with the stump when it is removed from the ground. So no, this is an incorrect method of putting the wicket down. If one bail has been removed earlier in the delivery, to fairly put the wicket down for a second time, you can simply remove the second bail that remains on top of the stumps. So you do not have to uproot a stump in this scenario. You can simply remove the other bail by striking it with the ball or a hand holding the ball. Moving along to law 30, batter out of his or her ground. Once again, we have got an animation video to talk us through this law. Let's watch it together.
Batsman out of his or her ground. When a batsman is out of his or her ground, he or she risks being stumped or run out. So when is a batsman out of his or her ground? According to Law 30, a batsman shall be considered to be out of his or her ground unless the bat he or she is holding or some part of the batsman's person is grounded behind the popping crease at that end. Here, for example, the bat is on the crease marking but not behind it, which means the batsman is most definitely out. But would the batsman be out now? Both the bat and the batsman are over the line, but neither the bat nor any part of the batsman's person is grounded, i.e. in contact with the ground. So, yes, that's out again. This being cricket, there is an exception to this part of the law. If a batsman, who must be running or diving, has already made his or her ground, either with the bat or any part of the body, but subsequently loses contact with the ground while continuing his or her forward momentum as the wicket is put down, he or she will be not out. Next question, and this can be a bit of a headache, what constitutes each batsman's ground? Well, when one batsman is in a ground, i.e. grounded behind a popping crease, then the ground at the other end belongs to the other batsman. If neither is in his or her ground, for example when they are both running between wickets or even stationary, each ground belongs to the batsman who is nearest to it. If both batsmen are level, then where they were before drawing level is the deciding factor. Of course, this being cricket, there are further delightful complications, such as two batsmen in the same ground, or three when you have a striker with a runner. But never fear, all mental anguish will clear with a little quiet meditation and reference to Law 30 in the Blue Book.
So with that animation video in mind, let us go to our next quiz question. Is Upul Taranga out-stumped, or is he run out, or is he not out in this scenario? Quiz question 30.1, out-stumped, or quiz question 30.1, out-run out, or 30.1, not out. Let's watch the video and you can put your answer in the chat box after the video, please. So let's watch the replay and I'll talk you through it. Taranga comes down the track, he plays a shot, it goes to the silly cover or silly mid-off fielder who throws the ball back in. Upul Taranga makes his ground by diving, and then as his elbow lands, it lifts his bat when the wicket is fairly put down by the wicket keeper. So, is that out stumped, or is that out run out, or is that not out? Please type your answer into the chat box now. 30.1 out stumped, or 30.1 out run out, or 30.1 not out. I will be going through all answers to all the quiz questions at the end of the presentation. Position of the non-striker. Law tells us that the non-striker, when standing at the bowler's end, should be positioned on the opposite side of the wicket to that from which the ball is being delivered, unless a request to do otherwise is granted by the umpire. So I'll just go back to this video. I won't play the video, but you'll see here that the bowler, Ravichandran Ashwin, was bowling right arm around the wicket, and the non-striker, Angelo Matthews, was standing on the other side of the stumps, away from the bowler, no interference there. So that is what this law is telling us. I think this is the last quiz question for the evening. Quiz question 30.2. Is this batter out or not out? You can see that the wicketkeeper has put the wicket down fairly. You can see that the batter has the bat leaning on the back of his thigh, or let's call it his hamstring. The bat is not in hand. The bat is grounded behind the popping crease, but it is leaning on the hamstring of the batter. It is not held in the batter's hand. Quiz question 30.2, is this out or not out? Please type your answer to the question into the chat box, and I'll go through all the answers at the end of the presentation. Last law that I am going through today is Law 31, appeals. Very importantly, an umpire is not to give a batter out without an appeal. Law is pretty clear on this. Neither umpire shall give a batter out, even though he or she may be out under the laws, unless appealed to by a fielder. This shall not debar a batter who's out under any of the laws from leaving the wicket without an appeal having been made. We still have honest batters out there who walk when they have nicked the ball, even if it's a faint nick and the wicketkeeper or slip fielder has taken a catch. They do not wait for an umpire to give them out. They leave the wicket immediately, and there the umpire does not have to give the batter out, but they will be out because they have walked. However, what happens if a batter walks thinking that he or she is out, but is actually not out? Maybe, yes, he or she did nick the ball and it was a clean catch, but there was a no ball and the umpire called and signaled no ball, but it wasn't loud enough for the batter to hear or see, and they walked out of their crease, and they were walking back towards the pavilion under the misapprehension of being out. Now, the wicketkeeper, having taken the catch, but seeing that the batter was out of his or her crease, having heard and seen the call and signal of no ball, throws the ball at the stumps and runs the batter out. Will that batter be out, run out? Of course, they won't be out caught because you cannot be caught off a no ball, but will they be out, run out in that scenario? Law protects them from being out, run out in that scenario. Why? Because they left their crease only because they were under the misapprehension that they were out caught. So law tells us that an umpire shall intervene if satisfied that a batter, not having been given out, has left the wicket under the misapprehension that they were out. The umpire intervening shall call and signal dead ball to prevent any further action by the fielding side and shall recall the batter. Even if the umpire is slow to call dead ball and the run out has already been affected, we will still call and signal dead ball, and that ball will be deemed to be dead before the batter was run out, and we will call the batter back. Why? Because we are saying that the ball is dead the moment that the batter was under the misapprehension that they were out. So law does protect the batter in that way. Up until when can a batter be recalled? A batter may be recalled at any time up to the instant when the ball comes into play for the next delivery, unless it is the final wicket of the innings, in which case the batter may be recalled at any time up to the instant when the umpires leave the field of play. How long is a valid appeal, or how long is an appeal valid for? The window period for which an appeal needs to be made is quite a long one. Laws tells us that it must be made up until before the bowler begins his or her run-up for the next ball. Or if there is no run-up, the appeal for the previous delivery needs to be made up, can be made up until the bowler starts his or her bowling action to deliver the next ball. And quite importantly, time should not have been called. What does this mean? So let's have a scenario where bowler bowls the ball, there's a thin edge to the ball, wicket keeper takes a catch, but there is no appeal. Nobody close to the action heard a nick or saw a deflection, so they did not appeal. It is the end of the over. So me as the bowlers and umpire, I'm waiting for an appeal. Law tells me that I cannot give this batter out if there's no appeal. There is no appeal, so I call over. I go to my position at square leg to be the strikers and umpire for the start of the next over. And the square leg fielder says to me, before the bowler starts his or her run up for the start of the next over, the square leg fielder says, umpire, umpire, I'm quite sure I heard a nick there, but I was all the way down at 5 legs, so I didn't appeal. But I am appealing now. How was that? That is quite a rare scenario. I've never seen it happen. But according to law, because yes, the over had ended, but it was not the end of the session. So I didn't call overtime and lunch. I just called over. I went to my position for the start of the next over at square leg. The square leg fielder asked me, how was that? The window period for that appeal is still open. I should, if I had heard bat or seen bat or know that the batter got bat on that delivery, I should give it out, okay, according to law. The window period for that appeal is still open. Okay, practically, it would look very weird for an umpire 45 seconds to a minute later giving a batter out. So maybe the best idea there is just to say, I didn't hear anything. I don't think it was out, not out. But according to law, if you did hear, if you were sure that there was bat, you are allowed to give it out because the window period for that appeal is still open. The call of over does not invalidate an appeal, okay? Provided that time has not been called. It is only when the bowler starts his or her run up for the next delivery or the next over, that is when the window period closes for an appeal. How must an appeal be made? Any version of the words "how was that" is allowed. Some players just scream, "Ah, ah, ah." That's fine. We all know that that is an appeal. And do they need to tell us what they are appealing for? Are they appealing for caught behind? Are they appealing for a stumping? Are they appealing for an LBW? They do not need to tell us which mode of dismissal they're appealing for. One appeal covers all 9 modes of dismissals. And on Wednesday, we will go through all those 9 modes of dismissals. Who answers which appeals? Law tells us that the strikers and umpire shall answer all appeals for hit wicket. He or she shall answer all appeals for stumpings, and he or she shall answer the appeal for run out at the wicket keeper's end. So out of the 9 modes of dismissals, the strikers and umpire only answers 2.5 appeals. I say half because runouts can occur at the wicket keeper's end or they can occur at the bowler's end. The strikers and umpire shall only answer the appeals for runouts at the wicket keeper's end. The bowlers and umpire shall answer the run-out appeals at the bowler's end and shall answer the appeals for all other modes of dismissals. Very importantly, when an appeal is made, each umpire shall answer on any matter that falls within his or her jurisdiction. When a batter has been given not out, either umpire may answer the same appeal if it is on a further matter in his or her jurisdiction. I'll give you an example to illustrate what the law is trying to teach us here. Bowler bowls the ball. A batter comes down the wicket, swings at the ball, might or might not have got an edge to the ball. The wicket keeper catches the ball, seeing that the striker is double stepping. The wicket keeper whips off the bails. They appeal to the strikers and umpire for stumping, and they appeal to the bowlers and umpire for a catch. So we will learn on Wednesday that court takes priority over all dismissals other than bowled. So the bowlers and umpire will answer the court appeal first. If the answer is not out for caught behind, then the strikers and umpire will answer the appeal for stumping. Do umpires consult? Are they allowed to consult? The law tells us that each umpire shall answer appeals on matters within his or her own jurisdiction. However, if an umpire is doubtful about any point that the other umpire may have been in a better position to see, he or she shall consult the other umpire on this matter of fact and shall then give the decision of out or not out. I'll give you an example of where we as umpires should consult. Bowler bowls the ball, batter plays at the ball, clear edge, the ball flies to second slip, who has to dive forward to take the catch. The bowler in his or her follow through obstructs the view of the bowler's end umpire judging whether the catch was fairly taken or if the ball bounced just before going into the fingers of the second slip fielder. The strikers end umpire who's watching the action from square on, has a very good view of whether or not the ball carried directly into the hands of the second slip fielder or it just bounced before going into the hands of the second slip fielder. So what do? We as the two umpires come together, and I as the bowlers and umpire will tell my colleague that my view was blocked. I need your help. What did you see? Did the ball carry? Was it a clean catch? Or did it bounce? Or are you not sure? If in doubt, not out. If the strikers and umpires 100% convinced that the ball carried cleanly into the hands and the catch was completed fairly, then the bowlers and umpire will, in his or her position where they have met to consult, give the striker out caught. The bowlers and umpire does not have to go back to his or her position behind the stumps at the bowler's end to give the striker out caught. As I mentioned, if after consultation there is still doubt, the decision shall be not out. Can an appeal be withdrawn? Yes, the captain of the fielding side may withdraw an appeal only after obtaining the consent of the umpire within whose jurisdiction the appeal falls. If such consent is given, the umpire concerned shall, if applicable, revoke the decision and recall the batters. In international cricket, the umpires are under instruction not to ask or to suggest to the fielding captain that they should consider withdrawing an unsporting appeal. But in recreational cricket and in club cricket in South Africa, we urge the umpires to suggest to a fielding captain if there was an unsporting appeal, then just on your way to consulting with your partner, just have a look at the fielding captain and just ask politely, do you want to go ahead with this appeal or do you want to withdraw this appeal? Okay, that is how we as umpires play a role in promoting the spirit of cricket. We cannot force a fielding captain to withdraw an appeal. We can simply ask. The withdrawal of an appeal must be before the instant when the ball comes into play for the next delivery. Or if the innings has been completed, the withdrawal of the appeal must be before the umpires leave the field. Let's watch a video of one of the most famous withdrawals of an appeal in the history of Test match cricket.
Well, let's see. That's it. He's out. And I would think it's Ian Bell that's out because he was the man closest to that end. And this is not going to be a happy situation here. That's carelessness, but it's not a happy situation.
MS Dhoni has won the ICC Spirit of Cricket Award of the Decade for his gesture in India vs England Test match in 2011. From the final ball of the afternoon session on the third day, Ian Bell on 137 was run out in a bizarre fashion following a mistaken assumption that the ball had reached the rope and gone for 4.
Great angle running here. I think it more than likely will end up in the boundary. He doesn't even know where it is. I don't think it has hit the boundary, but he doesn't know where it is. The ball isn't dead. I'm not too sure what's happening here.
Replay showed the ball hadn't crossed the boundary. Both batsmen were off the crease, the ball came back and they took the bails off.
Morgan, there he is. Morgan's still in his crease, so I think Bell could be out here.
Third umpire gave it as out, and the crowd went crazy and even the English dressing room didn't know what to do. After the tea break, Indian players were booed by the home England fans.
Umpires just said dead ball. They were wrong to do so, but there are more boos here. Enormous boos for MS Dhoni as he leads his team out, which again is...
Even the umpires were booed by the English people.
Two umpires here who perform their duties diligently and to the letter of the law.
But suddenly, their boo turned to cheer in a matter of seconds.
Not seen that sort of thing on a cricket field, and with the letter of the law, he's out, and a resounding cheer for England as they come back out again.
You know, well, maybe the applause from England was genuine, because what has clearly happened here, unbeknownst to us...
Ian Bell returned back to the ground. Over the course of tea, the India team led by Captain Dhoni decided to retract the appeal. This gesture from Captain Cool won him the ICC Spirit of Cricket Award of the decade.
The Indian dressing room asked MS Dhoni to withdraw his appeal, and that's what he's done. So Ian Bell is coming out. So all the boos have been replaced by cheers.
So that is what we love to see on a cricket field, the spirit of cricket trumping over the laws of cricket. So let us go into the quiz questions that were posed throughout the presentation, and I will give you the answers. Thank you to all of you who have typed in your answers into the chat box. First one, question 29.1, is the wicket down in this scenario? Bowler bowls a ball. I think it comes off the batter pad and it hits the off stump, but the off ball lands on top of the off stump. It is not completely off the top of the stumps. Law says that for the wicket to be down, either or both bails need to be completely removed from the top of the stumps. Is this completely removed from the top of the stumps? No, it is not. Therefore, a very unlikely scenario, but there you see it in front of your own eyes, that is not out. So is the wicket down in this scenario? Answer to question 29.1, no, the wicket is not down in that scenario. Is the wicket down in this scenario? We'll go back to that same law. The wicket is down if either or both of the bails are completely removed from the top of the stumps. You can see that the bail on the left is completely removed from the top of the stumps. So yes, here in 29.2, the wicket is down. Answer to this question 29.2, yes, the wicket is down. Question 30.1. Is Upul Taranga out stumped, or is he out run out, or is he not out in this scenario? Let's play the video. Ball is hit to the short cover or silly middle fielder, and the fielder flicks it back to the wicket keeper. The striker Upul Taranga dives in, makes his ground. As his hand lands, the bat rises and the wicket keeper removes the bail while the bat is in the air. So is this out? If it's out, is it out stumped or is it out run out? Or is Upul Taranga protected by the law? Upul Taranga is protected by the law in this scenario. Why and how? He was diving back when he made his ground, and then because of the hand landing on the ground, only then was the bat raised when the wicket was fairly put down. Law says if a batter has made good his or her ground and then subsequently dives or runs and the bat is lifted when the wicket is fairly put down, they shall be protected from being run out or stumped. Only if they were running or diving and had made good their ground before the bat then lifting will they be given protection from being run out or stumped. So correct answer to question 30.1 is not out. Why? Because Upul Taranga was diving, made good his ground, and then the bat lifted when the wicket was fairly put down. 30.2, batter is resting his bat on his hamstring. The bat is grounded in his crease, but the body is out of the crease. Wicket keeper sees this, puts the wicket down fairly. Is this out or not out? This is out. Why? Because the bat is only considered part of the batter if it is held in the hand. In this scenario, it is not held in the hand. It is resting on the hamstring. Therefore, it is not considered part of the striker or the batter. Therefore, no part of the batter is grounded behind the popping crease. Therefore, when the wicket is fairly put down, the batter is out. Whether this is run out or stumped, I'm not sure. But the batter is out of his ground, so that will be given out. Okay, so we've learned something new there, I'm sure. So now I am going to go into the chat box and I'm going to answer all the questions that have been posed while we were presenting. First question is from Kartikeyan. When no run is allowed for leg byes, once the batters complete their first run or the ball reaches the boundary, whichever happens first, we call and signal dead ball to freeze further action, so nothing else can happen after that. And we return the batters to their original ends. How do we communicate this with the scorers? Are we supposed to signal dead ball to the scorers as well, or anything else to be done? Yes, Kartikeyan. When we call and signal dead ball, whether it's the run completed or it is the ball crossing the boundary, then we will signal to the scorers. They will know why we are calling and signaling dead ball. They will have seen that the batter did not attempt a shot, nor did he or she take evasive action. Therefore, as we are sending them back to their original ends, they will also know that all runs were disallowed. The scorers do know their laws or should know their laws. So when they see the dead ball signal, they will also know that we are cancelling or disallowing all runs to the batting side, especially by us sending them back to their original ends. If they had ran two, well, they shouldn't have ran two, because as soon as they completed the first run, then we would have called and signaled dead ball. As soon as we send them back to the original ends, the scorers will figure out that all runs are disallowed. Good umpiring practice: when you come off the field, just confirm with the scorers that on that particular delivery, no runs were scored. If you do have a radio that you can communicate with to the scorers, then you can communicate with them as soon as you call and signal dead ball and send the batters back to their original ends. Question from Neville. A fielder was off the field from 10:15 a.m. to 11:35 a.m. At 11:45 a.m., the same fielder commits a level 3 offense and is suspended for 10 overs, which takes 44 minutes to complete. At what time will the fielder be allowed to bowl? So Neville, this is clearly a level 2 or a level 3 question from an association's exam question. Not really a level 1 question, but I will take you and the candidates through it. So let's just go see what the law says. And the reason you won't see it in our presentation is that, yes, we are presenting laws 1 to 40 to you, but we are leaving some parts out which are higher grade or higher levels. So let me read the law that is valid or relevant to your question and your scenario, Neville. If a level 3 offense under law 42 is committed by a fielder, and a level 3 offense is a serious offense, maybe intimidating another player, an opposition player. Law says that if a player commits a level 3 offense, then they will be suspended from the field of play for a period of 1/5 of the allocated overs for a match. So if it's a 50-over match, then they will be off the field for 10 overs. So Neville says if that fielder is off the field for 44 minutes because of a level 3 offense, what time will they be able to bowl again? Okay, so law says that the period of time spent off the field of play as a result of suspension shall not be added to any unserved penalty time if he or she takes the field at the end of the period of suspension. So we will not add 44 minutes to the time that that fielder needs to be on the field before he or she can bowl again. Okay, let's look at the next part of the law. A level 3 offense is committed by a substitute. No, let's not worry about a substitute. It simply says that any time spent off the field prior to the offense causing the suspension will remain as unserved penalty time. I'm quite sure I read earlier as well that that time off the field obviously also doesn't count as penalty time served. Here we go. The period of time spent off the field of play as a result of the suspension shall not be added to any unserved penalty time. Quite sure I read earlier as well that it does not serve as time. It does not count as time served on the field, obviously. So Neville says this fielder was off the field from 10:15 until 11:35 a.m. So they owed us 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's 80 minutes that they owed us. At 11:45, so he had been on the field for 10 minutes, so now he owes us 70 minutes. At 11:45, the same fielder commits a level 3 offense and is suspended for 10 overs, which takes 44 minutes. So that fielder, I'm not going to have any lunch breaks included here, Neville, to keep it simple. So that fielder from 11:45, he was off the field for 44 minutes. He will be back at 12:29. 11:45 plus 44 minutes is 12:29. When he or she comes back at 12:29, he still owes us 70 minutes of penalty time. 12:29 plus 70 minutes is 30 all again. And okay, So we are not adding the 44 minutes that he or she was off the field for as penalty time that needs to be served. It's also not penalty time served. It does not count for or against him. Neville, hope that answers your question. Kartikeyan says Team A is batting in their first innings, and at 11 a.m., John from Team B goes off the field for hamstring treatment. At 12 noon, Team A's first innings is completed. So John was off the field for 60 minutes. He cannot open the batting. He needs to wait 60 minutes into Team B's batting innings or 5 wickets down, whichever comes first, then he can bat. When Team B start their first innings at 12:40, because there was lunch from 12 to 12:40, then within 20 minutes at 1 p.m., Team B has lost 5 wickets. Although John served only 20 minutes of playing time, he's allowed to bat since the Team B has lost 5 wickets. Yes. John comes to bat at 1 p.m. What happens to the remaining 40 minutes of unserved penalty time? Does John have to serve another 40 minutes when the third innings of the match starts before he is allowed to bowl? Or if Team A enforced the follow-on, does John have to wait another 40 minutes or 5 wickets down before he can bat? Kartikeyan, when 5 wickets fell in Team B's first innings, that was the end of John's penalty time. Yes, he only served 20 minutes of penalty time, but 5 wickets down constitutes the end of the penalty time. It will not be carried forward into the third innings. It will not be carried over into a subsequent batting innings. The first time that a team is 5 wickets down, that is the end of a batter's penalty time. His or her penalty time is deemed to have been served in its entirety when 5 wickets fall in the first innings that he was serving penalty time. Cool. Neville asks, a batter came to bat wearing an internal leg guard and an external thigh guard. What action should the umpire take, if any? Neville, the law does not specify whether a batter needs to wear their leg guards and thigh guards internally or externally. It is common practice for leg guards to be external and thigh guards to be internal. I have, however, seen batters batting with their thigh guards outside. Sometimes batters have pants which are too tight for the thigh guards to fit inside the pants. So it does not look great. Some would say it looks village, but nowhere in the laws does it specify that a thigh guard needs to be internally worn under the pants. So no action required by the umpire. Another question from Neville. The bowler runs in and while starting his delivery swing, puts the wicket down at the non-striker's end with the non-striker out of his or her ground. The bowler delivers the ball, which the striker negotiates. Mid-off, noticing the non-striker was out of his or her ground, appeals for the run-out. What action should the umpire take in this situation? Neville, we are coming to that law in Law 37, run-out, and we will answer your question then. Running out of the non-striker by the bowler, can it be done unintentionally or does it need to be intentional? We will go through the modes of dismissals on Wednesday and we will teach you the ins and out of that scenario. Okay, so thank you all for answering the quiz questions. And I see a lot of you know better than Babar Azam. a fielder is definitely not allowed to use a wicket keeper's equipment. Question from SM. A striker plays the ball towards the covers, tries to run, but seeing the fielder grabbing the ball, decides against it and returns to his end. The cover fielder now throws the ball towards the striker's end with the striker standing outside the popping crease, but with his bat held in hand, grounded well behind the popping crease. The ball hits the striker's bat, and the impact of the throw makes the batter drop his bat. The ball now rolls over to hit the stumps and dislodges the bail with the batter standing outside. The fielding side appeals. What should the umpire answer? So we will not cover such a scenario in our dismissals laws. So I'll give you the answer, SM. Because the bat is no longer grounded behind the popping crease, if the batter was not running or diving into his crease when the bat was lifted, he is not protected. Therefore, unfortunately, that will be out, a run out. And there is a scenario that's very similar to what you've described, and it happened in a match in India. I think it was a provincial match in India, and I have got it as one of my Make the Call episodes. So I'm just going into the Western Province Cricket Umpires Association YouTube channel. I'm going to the Make the Call playlist. I'm going to find that video. I'm going to post the link in the chat box. You can all watch it, and the full explanation is in the comments section of that video. Okay, so unfortunate scenario for the striker, but it is out, run out. Okay. Okay, Neville, I feel like you are hijacking this course with all your questions. I'm going to skip your questions and go to any other questions. If there are no other questions, then I will go back to your questions, Neville. Okay, there don't seem to be any other questions in the chat box, so I'll go back to your questions, Neville. And Neville, please remember that this is a level 1 course. We want to try and keep the questions related to the content that's been presented and also to a level 1 level. We do have level 2 coming up in April and level 3 coming up in June, where some of your questions will be more relevant to those levels. Right, so multiple questions. At the fall of the 6th wicket, the umpire calls time to commence the interval for the drinks. When does the next batter's innings commence? The next batter's innings will commence. Let me just check the law, Neville. I think it is. Abdullah did mention at the start of a new session, it is when the umpire calls play. I just want to confirm that. It will be under law 25. Commencement of batter's innings, the innings of the first 2 batters and that of any new batter on the resumption of play after a call of time shall commence at the call of play. So after the drinks break, when the umpire calls play, then that will be the start of that new batter's innings. B, the 7th wicket falls immediately after the interval for drinks. When does the next batter's innings commence? So the next batter's innings will commence when he crosses the boundary rope to enter the field of play? C. What is the procedure to be followed if there is a protracted delay in a new batter coming to the wicket after the fall of the 8th wicket? We will come to that in law 40 timed out, and that would be for the fall of any wicket, not just the 8th wicket. A new batter has a certain amount of time that after the fall of a wicket, they need to be ready to receive the next delivery, or their partner, if their partner is on strike, ready to receive the next delivery. According to law, it's 3 minutes. According to test match, one-day international playing conditions, it's 2 minutes. T20 internationals, 90 seconds. Right, I do not see any more questions in the chat box. We did have hands up in the meeting rooms while we were presenting, but I don't see any hands up in the meeting room anymore. This is your chance, if you do have any further questions, to raise your hands and I will take your questions live. I'm now also activating your microphones and your cameras for you to be able to engage face to face if required. See, something else has come up in the chat box. Thanks, Neville, for keeping your questions relevant to a level 1 umpiring course. Kartikeyan has got his hand up. Kartikeyan, please.
Yeah, Tom, in this last video that you posted, make the call playlist video.
Yes.
So how do we like running or walking, right? Like sometimes the batsmen take the run by walking also. So how can we dismiss that he was not running because he is literally walking, right?
So Kartikeyan, I think we all know the difference between running and walking. When a batter is running, at some point both feet will be lifted off the ground. When a batter is walking, there'll only be one foot lifted off the ground at a time. So the law is quite clear. The batter needs to be running or diving for them to be protected by that law. I hope that answers your question, Kartikeyan.
Okay. I mean, this is very strange thing, but I'll accept. Thank you.
Yes, Kartikeyan, the law, we as umpires just need to follow the law. We don't need to interpret. If there's no interpretation required, we don't need to interpret, because if we are going to try and interpret scenarios differently to what the law is telling us, then we're opening ourselves up to inconsistent application of the law. And you will find that one umpire might give that scenario not out, and another umpire will give it out. But if the law is pretty clear, in this case it says batter needs to be running or diving into their crease. They need to have made good their ground before then the bat lifting and then the wicket being put down fairly. If they weren't diving or they weren't running, unfortunately, they're not protected. Freaky dismissal, but according to laws, out, run out.
Understood. Thanks, Tom.
Great. Thank you very much for all of your attendance and your interaction this lecture. It has been recorded and it will be posted in our YouTube channel by 11 a.m. South African time tomorrow morning. We will convene again on Wednesday for lecture number 6, where we will go through laws 32 to law 40, the modes of dismissal. Same time, same place, same Microsoft Teams meeting link. Have a great week. Until then, thank you and goodbye.